Hey everybody, Jimmy Smith again. So I've been radio silent for a couple days. I've been dealing with a sinus infection. I know some of you have heard it on my previous videos, coughing a little bit. Finally went to the doctor when my throat started swelling up. And they're like, yeah, you have a sinus infection. So anyway, I sounded like crap yesterday. Another quick note. I work for ProBox TV. I call live fights every other Wednesday. I don't plug my gig that much on my channel. But last Wednesday in Plant City, I called a main event. It's probably the greatest fight I've ever called in boxing. Amazing in the main event. Guys, you really go to ProBox TV and check it out. Sergey Lipinets taking on Robbie Davies Jr. They went to war. 3 knockdowns in the fight. I don't want to give it all away if you haven't seen it yet, but back and forth, unbelievable. Both guys hurt. Both guys at one time, right there at a world-class level. Lipinets, a former champion at 140, but really amazing, guys. Check it out if you can, ProBox TV, but I'm kind of mentally recovering from that fight. Anyway, now back to MMA and a little boxing. I'm going to be covering the fight night this Saturday, UFC on ESPN 56, Lewis versus Nascimento. The problem with this card from a betting angle is we see a lot of skewed odds, and we see a lot of fighters that aren't really that proven. So there might be sneaky ways to make money kind of going against the grain here, but you're going to have to take some risks, and that's a little bit of the problem. So we start out bottom of the main card. Robles Despain versus Waldo Cortez-Acosta. Here's another one, right about what I'm talking about, where the odds are Despain is minus 192, so a 2-1 favorite, depending on your book. Cortez-Acosta plus 160. Despain's 5-0, 1-0 in the UFC, and he just swings these crazy, wild punches. He's a big Cuban fighter, Taekwondo expert, but a lot of loopy, wild stuff. And yeah, he found the button in his UFC debut, but with a style like that, you're just as likely to not find the button and get knocked out. Michel Pineda, right? Last week, I said, I bet against Michel because the odds were like 5-1. Against a guy with a wild style, he's likely to get caught too. Now, obviously, Pineda ended up winning, but that's kind of the logic here is whenever you see big odds on somebody that has a crazy, wild style that's kind of unproven, throw some money at the other guy simply because he's just as likely to go down. Now, the problem here is that Waldo Cortez-Acosta, 4-1 in the UFC, 11-1 overall, much more experienced, but he tends to mug a little bit, tends to clown, tends to like, hey, come on, I dare you to hit me. Well, it's exactly the wrong kind of style to have against Despain. So the smart money would be Despain. I'm sorry, I keep saying Despain. Despain. Smart money would be on Despain, but I got to go with Waldo Cortez-Acosta at those odds with that wild style where, you're likely to eat punches. You're either going, here's the deal, either go first-round knockout for Despain, all right? Make some money betting hard on a first-round knockout. So there you can get plus money. But if you're going for, if you're looking to make money on this fight and go with the dog, this is a good one to pick the dog because Waldo Cortez-Acosta, more experienced, might rely on his ground game, might be a little smarter. So at 2-1 odds, got to go with Acosta. If you're going to go with Despain, go first-round knockout because if he wins, that's how he's going to do it, and that's how you can get plus money. There. That's a little complicated. Here's another one that's very, very interesting. Sean Woodson, 11-1-1, 5-1-1 in the UFC versus Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres. Once again, Woodson a 2-1 favorite. It's kind of the craziness here of him being 6'2". He's a gigantic featherweight. Is Woodson? He's a good wrestler, good grappler. And the size goes with that very, very well. He's kind of lanky, but he's an excellent grappler with that frame. So the interesting thing here is that Bruce Leroy Caceres is one of those guys who's been very, very up and down in his career. It took him a while to kind of find his rhythm. He's done very well recently. Lost to Giga Chikadze, Sodiq Yusuff, but other than that, he's strung together some very good wins. Won 5 in a row, and then 2 in a row after the Sodiq Yusuff loss. So he's kind of found his legs, I think, since the Kron Gracie loss. Up to Kron Gracie, he was a win some, lose some guy, and he's put together a good streak. I think he lost 2 better guys. Now, that being said, is this another one of those cases where it might be a good idea to go with the odds? Because, Woodson is tricky. He does have a really strange outside angling kind of style. It's very difficult to catch up to. Sean Woodson, can he take him down reliably? That's the question. At 2-1, that's a tough bet. If Caceres can stay fast and move around enough, he can win by decision, right? But if Sean Woodson can get his takedown going and use his size, he can negate that style. In this case, I would go with the better grappler. I'd go with Sean Woodson. But at 2-1, I'd put a little money on Bruce Leroy. I'd make a little side bet there. If you go with Sean Woodson, once again, probably by decision, he's going to have to rely on his grappling a lot. The idea that he catches Bruce Leroy on the ground, possible, but I think a decision is a smart bet. Next one up, Mateusz Rebecki versus Diego Ferreira. Diego Ferreira, very tough fighter, had some good wins, kind of sneaky good for a lot of years, under the radar. I think those days are a little bit done. Diego Ferreira, the problem with him is when he got his big win, it was Anthony Pettis was kind of his breakout win. He was getting old by that point. And I think by the time he really found a lot of success, he was a little bit old. He was slowing down a little bit. Obviously, Gregor Gillespie, Mateusz Gamrot. The win over Michael Johnson, he wasn't winning that until he found the knockout punch. So I got to go with the obviously the up-and-comer, Rebecki, 19-1, 3-0 in the UFC. He's a 3-1 favorite. I think that's pretty justified, simply because I have less faith in Diego Ferreira than I used to. Rebecki, pretty impressive against Roosevelt Roberts last time out. Roosevelt Roberts, a tough build, really rangy, stands a little bit tall. It's kind of hard to figure him out. He had nothing for Rebecki last time out. So this is the young eating the old, as they always do. I would go with that narrative, even at 3-1 odds. So, Carlos Olberg, once again, sinus infection, I'm sorry, or Alonzo Menifield. Olberg, a big favorite in this one, almost 3-1, 2.5-1. To me, that makes sense, simply because Alonzo Menifield, even against superior kickboxers, right? Dustin Jacoby, a better kickboxer. Jacoby outlanded him, and then he got back into it with his power, right? Was able to rock Jacoby to win rounds. I don't think he does it against Olberg. Olberg is a little bit younger. He's a little bit fresher. He's a little bit faster. Hasn't been through the ringer the way Dustin Jacoby has. So it's a very similar kind of battle in that Olberg is a technical kickboxer, right? CKB guy, puts it together very, very, very well on the feet, but not the most powerful striker in the world, but technical and good. His opponent relies on power a little bit more. Olberg's a volume guy with technique. I usually go with that over the power guy. Also a bit more experience in big fights. Also, once again, always look at what the UFC wants. Olberg's really good looking. He was a TV star in Australia, doing some reality show stuff. So he's just, a guy that's easy to market. Whenever they go down under, he puts asses in seats. So I got to go with Carlos Olberg, take on the number 11 guy. This might break him into the rankings. I got to go with Carlos Olberg, probably by decision. That'd be my pick. Now, another interesting one, Joaquin Buckley, Nursultan Ruziboev. Ruziboev, 2-0 in the UFC, very experienced. The problem is, when you look at his record, it's gaudy, 34-8-2. On the local scene, he's beaten a lot of guys, a lot of nobodies, a lot of what's going on here. 2 fights in the UFC, he's looked very, very good. Going down to 170, he's a big dude. He is absolutely gigantic. Now, they both he's like 6'5". They both fought at the same card in March, where Joaquin Buckley beat Vicente Luque. In a fight I didn't expect him to win. I thought Vicente Luque had enough in the tank to beat Joaquin Buckley. He didn't. And the question here is, as a minus 166 favorite, which is, you can make some money if you put enough on Buckley. That isn't bad. Can he overcome the frame? Can he overcome the size? Joaquin Buckley's a guy who fought comfortably at middleweight. Was he a great middleweight? No. I think he's a much more natural welterweight. But the idea that a 6'5" former middleweight is going to scare him, he's been in there with big dudes. He's been in there with strong guys. I don't think that's going to do it. And also, Buckley's style is outside, spins a lot, elusive. He does have power, but he's a tough guy to catch up to, even if you're 6'5", and you got to somehow corral him. His footwork is very, very good. I think that sets him up well to kind of hunt and peck and win from the outside. I think he does that. Does he score another knockout? That's difficult, especially against a guy who's that tall. You don't want to sell out too much and get caught by a bigger guy. I think he plays it safe. I think he hunts and pecks and moves around. Joaquin Buckley probably by decision over Ruziboev. Because outside his size, I don't know how much he has for Joaquin Buckley. I think Joaquin Buckley wins it. Tough main event. Whenever you bet on Derek Lewis, it's just tough. Derek Lewis, you all know him, 27-12, 18-10 in the UFC, taking on Rodrigo Nascimento. 9 times out of 10, in a situation like this, a win some, lose some heavyweight who hits hard but doesn't have a lot of well-rounded skills, you go with the young up-and-comer who has some grappling. That's Nascimento. Derek Lewis kind of breaks the mold a little bit. He's surprisingly athletic for his build. He has surprising gas for his build. He tends to win late knockouts, against guys he shouldn't beat. All the normal things you would think about a heavyweight about Derek Lewis, you kind of throw out the window. He has power. A lot of heavyweights have power, but it's his ability to win fights late. Usually, the story with a guy built like Derek Lewis is once you take him off his feet, hold him down for a couple rounds, he's done. He can't do anything at all. And he's shown a consistent ability to kind of beast his way out of positions. You take him down, get side control, you think you got him, and he turns and turtles and pops up and gets up again. Once again, surprisingly athletic for a guy with his build. Also surprising gas. Most guys built like him, if you get out of the first couple rounds, they become, exponentially less dangerous. Derek Lewis doesn't. He keeps that power from the first minute to the last minute. So the other side of the equation is Nascimento, despite having a good takedown, despite having a good ground game, doesn't get a lot of submissions down there. He doesn't threaten a lot, right? And the problem is, having a takedown, being able to hold guys down, Derek Lewis is good at getting out of those positions. And if you can't threaten with something, meaning I can turn my back and pop up. If I turn my back and you're going to finish me, which a high-level, jiu-jitsu guy is going to do, if I'm not worried about that, if you want a great finisher, I can take some risks on the ground in order to pop up and get out. And that's Derek Lewis's only way out, if you get what I'm saying. So this is a very tough one. Also, it's a 5-rounder. Derek Lewis has said over and over, I don't like 5-rounders. But once again, he's had surprising gas considering. He's also recently, he's a fan favorite. You want to see him win. He has 1 win in his last 5 fights, right? 2 in his last 7. He's just been on the downside. But those have been really good fighters. Jailton Almeida, Sergey Spivak, Sergey Pavlovich, Tai Tuivasa, Cyril Gane. Those are really good heavyweights. Do I put Nascimento in that class? No, I do not. But when you look at the odds, if you're going to take an underdog, it's a pretty good one to take. Nascimento plus 124, $100 wins you $124. If you got 2-1 or above, I'd bet against Derek Lewis. You're not. You're getting minus 148. So, a 150, right? 150 dog is Nascimento. So Lewis is a slight favorite. He's not enough of a favorite I think he's worth betting against, as weird as that sounds. So I got to go with Derek Lewis. He gets it done usually early knockout. That's where you can get plus money if you're going to bet. But Derek Lewis is always kind of an up and down sort of guy. I think this is the kind of fight and the kind of opponent he can beat. Got to go with Derek Lewis. Maybe against my better judgment, but he's burned me before. So I got to go with Derek Lewis. I would say, once again, first or second round knockout, that's where you get plus money. Also, this Saturday, Vasily Lomachenko, George Kambosos Jr., covered it on ProBox TV, if you want to check it out at ProBox TV. Chris Algieri and I broke the fight down, talked about it, along with Showtime, Sean Porter. And Vasily Lomachenko, the Matrix, known for his unbelievable speed and footwork and combinations. The guy's really otherworldly to watch. I thought he beat Devin Haney. I know it was a heartbreaking loss for him. He's really smarting from that one. But George Kambosos Jr. is one of those guys where he beat Teofimo Lopez in a gigantic upset, but Teofimo chose the wrong strategy and went after him. I'm going to knock him out in the first round, went after him, got dropped himself, and fought the exact kind of fight that George Kambosos Jr. wanted. I'm sorry, Vasily Lomachenko's not going to fight that kind of fight. He's going to move and angle and make you find him, and that's always tough to do. The only thing I wonder about is in the Devin Haney fight, definitely in the Teofimo Lopez fight, Lomachenko's had a habit of reading too long. He'll take the first 6 rounds figuring out, and, he'll start working, but, he's got to win the rest of the rounds in order to get a decision. Against Devin Haney, he didn't. Against Teofimo Lopez, he didn't. So that's the problem. Will he start a little bit faster against Kambosos Jr., who doesn't have great footwork, great combinations, hits hard, but, he might be able to read him a little bit earlier. I think he does. And I think at 36, he has a lot in the tank. Remember, he was mostly in the amateurs, won 2 gold medals, started his pro career pretty late, and in that pro career, hasn't taken a whole lot of damage. So his 36 isn't the same as a lot of other fighters' 36. So I still think that Vasily Lomachenko can win it. Smart money's always by decision. He has respectable power at 35, but he's not a natural 35. He doesn't have 35 punching power. So I don't think Kambosos Jr. is in danger of getting knocked out. I think he's in danger of getting outpointed. I think it might look like the second Devin Haney fight. So my recommendation, of course, is with Vasily Lomachenko over George Kambosos Jr. Once again, apologize for the voice and being off for a couple days. Appreciate you, though. Leave a comment, subscribe, let me know what you think.